Happy New Year and welcome to Auto Network Reports. And we have today back from 2024, another year older. We have Miss Tia Collier sitting somewhere in Texas, as usual, in the vertical mode. And we have Mr. Dave Bolt hanging out on the West Coast still. And I'm Roosevelt, your host. This is Auto Network Reports. I want to thank you for joining us for our first show for 2025. And I see Kia is anxious. She's just all over the place, upside down, left, right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about buying cars in 2025. We're going to do a walk around of the new, well, I guess it's the revised 2025 Volkswagen Taos. Couple of things to cover before we get into that, though. If you know an African American male that's 30 years older, please make sure he visits his urologist and get that PSA exam. Always says that little prick that could possibly save his life. Also, show some support.
Oh boy.
Hi, Dave.
Hey Tia, how are you?
Good.
Happy
Where
New
are
Year.
you in California? Happy New Year.
Santa Clarita, just north of Burbank.
Oh, how fun.
About 20 minutes. We've got granddaughters here, so that's why we're here.
I'm back.
Hi, y'all.
I had a crash. This is the first crash I've had for 2025. Right in the middle of talking about showing support for the panelists by subscribing to their social media. Also,
Or paying our electrical bill.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that too.
And in 2025, we will still be on Black Press USA. You can find us there
Yay.
live and for replays. And that is the digital site for about 240 African American newspapers. So before we get kicked off, or before I get kicked off again, hopefully we'll get Greg back. Car
It's
buying.
Thursday.
Let's talk about car buying in 2025. I don't know how much time you all spend following what dealers are doing in the marketplace, but it seems as though auto dealers are still doing some of the same things that they've been doing since when Dave and I sold cars. it's unbelievable. I saw two reports from FTC regarding two different automotive groups where they're being investigated and will probably end up being fined for still doing the old bait and switch tactics. Now, this is probably the highest tech era in our life where you have so much access to information via your phone, your PC, your tablet, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And dealers are still out there putting up bogus prices, getting people to travel sometimes hours to come to their dealership to get a car, only to find out two things. Either the car does not exist, oh, it's been sold, the price was so low, or the price was not the price. And what amazes me in both of these stories, these dealers were pretty much doing the same thing. And some people were paying as much as $2,000 more than what was the price was supposed to be. You know, my question is, as a consumer and you go into the dealership,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they lock the doors when you go in there and chain you to the desk. So why don't you just walk out? You have all the power and control. Why don't you just walk out? I mean, I find that amazing that people will sit there, sit through the presentation, be told all of these lies about what they have to do. The other one is, well, if you don't finance the car with one of our lenders, you're going to have to pay a higher interest rate, or we're going to have to charge you more money for the car.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys walk out?
I mean, I would. But you got to figure that I would assume that people don't know, right?
Well, you
that they
have to
don't
know
know.
if you came in there looking for a particular car that had a certain price on it, and you get to
Mm-hmm.
the dealership, the car doesn't exist, or if it's still sitting there, you have to pay more for it. So you do know. You're not walking into a black hole.
Well, I would also think there are some consumers that do know that the prices have
Mm-hmm.
come on and they don't expect to buy that actual vehicle, but they can, at the very least, use it as a starting point for negotiation on another vehicle. So I think it's complicated. Uh, what I'm wondering is if people are intentionally using deceptive trade practices, the dealers are,
Mm-hmm.
why don't they pull the goddamn franchise?
Yeah.
It just absolutely baffles me that you're going to find these people. These people don't care about fines. It's like finding Donald Trump. You know, the guy is sitting on billions of paper money. You're going to find him $500,000 and expect him to worry about it. Well, these dealers aren't worried about it, especially the dealer groups. So pull their franchises, and maybe you put a stop to this, if only because that guy isn't operating in anything other than a note lot, which is probably where he should be anyway.
Well, one of
Mm-hmm.
the comments from the FTC was that we're going to try and get the dealers to refrain from doing this. I mean,
Well, and they've been trying for 100
It
years.
lacks
right.
teeth.
Yeah,
It lacks
right.
teeth to it.
But let's talk a little bit about how you can possibly save some money when you're going out to purchase a car for 2025. I think these things still work. It
Okay.
may be a little harder than what it used to be. One is an auto lease, but let me back up. The first thing that you should do is get pre-approved to
Yes.
That.
see how
Yeah.
much money you actually have available to spend.
Yep. And stay
Pre-approval.
within that.
Yeah.
Stay within that.
And for most people, that would be their bank or savings and loan or credit union.
Credit
Right.
union. Yeah.
For me, it's my wife.
Get pre-approved. Hey, Dave, you can't go out and buy this car. Okay, dear.
She
But
said,
pre-approval.
That's
And
my
talked,
pre-approval.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about it on the show before. People try to get into more car than they can afford to get into.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're looking to buy something that they really don't need and it doesn't really fit. It doesn't fit their needs. And pre-approval, I think, will bring you to realization whether you can actually afford this vehicle that you're looking at.
Yes.
And it saves you a whole lot of time and aggravation because you're not going to be going out from dealership to dealership or looking at these big
Mm-hmm.
cars that you want to walk in and try to buy, and then you have to move down to something less expensive. That's time consuming, not only for the dealer, but
Mm-hmm.
also for you as the consumer.
Well, it's also disappointing if you belatedly you get that realization that
Yeah.
you can't get a $60,000 car. You need to be driving a $40,000 car.
Right.
In the same way that you can't get this 7-figure home, you need to be looking at a $600,000 home or whatever. And in most real estate transactions, if you're represented by a realtor, they're going to ask you to get pre-approval of that mortgage so that you can go in as a buyer that is pre-approved for that mortgage. You've strengthened your
Exactly.
negotiating hand. Same thing will happen at a car dealership. If you go in with that pre-approval that you're recommending, Roosevelt, you've already legitimized yourself as a buyer, and they've got an idea that you're an
Mm-hmm.
informed consumer rather than uninformed.
And you have, I think you have a lot more clout when you are pre-approved. I mean, but you don't walk into the dealership and say, "Hey, I'm pre-approved for $30,000."
No,
No,
not
you
that.
don't. You don't go in there
Because someone will help you spend
like a badge
all.
of honor. Oh, I'm pre-approved for $30,000. Okay,
At
you
which
walk
point
out.
they sell you a $25,000 car with ads.
Yeah, exactly. And you walk out of there buying one for 32,000.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, I think you're going to see a huge increase in auto leasing. And that's because the
Mm-hmm.
price of cars have just gotten outrageous. And then
Yeah.
the prices don't seem to be going down. I don't know whether the manufacturing costs are going up or what's driving this, but car prices now are new car what is somewhere around $47,000, $48,000 average
Hmm.
price for a
Yeah.
new car,
Right.
and a lease will satisfy most consumers' driving habits. And I always say the salesperson should qualify the potential buyer not only to help them get into the right automobile, but help them get into the right type of financing so that they will be happy, they can afford it, and that they'll refer you to somebody else.
Yes. Repeat
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. Most consumers qualify for leasing based on their driving habits.
Especially now when more people are only working a few days at the office, with
Exactly. Yeah.
flex
Mm-hmm.
time, the commutes are shorter or they're non-existent.
And
Right.
one of the complaints about auto leasing is, well, I drive more than the 12 to 15,000 miles a year that's
Mm-hmm.
allowed on a lease. Most people don't drive more than the 12 to 15,000 miles. But if the perception is that they do that, then leasing companies should look at increasing the standard or allowed mileage to
Like,
18,000. I think 18,000 would be a good number.
Hmm.
I think it would satisfy that or remove that anxiety of driving beyond the annual mileage and I have to park my car
mm-hmm.
because I've driven beyond the annual mileage. And it's like EVs, if you looking at an EV that only has 250-mile range and you feel that you drive more than that, then that's going to keep you away from looking at an EV, even though you may realistically, if you track your driving for 6 months, you probably drive 150 or less than that. So that car again would satisfy your needs, but most people aren't realistic about what they do when it comes to automobiles.
Well, I think that's part of this journey to like electrification is that people have unrealistic expectations for how much they drive on a daily basis. Unless you're like going on a road trip, you might not need more than that. Um, but people don't think that. They think they need a whole lot because that's what we're used to having when we have gas. Not realizing that your daily is probably only 20, 30, 40 miles.
And if you're taking 2 road trips a year, which I guess would be typical, rent a car, rent a minivan for that road trip, rent the 3-row SUV that you don't need at any other time other than a vacation. Rent it, and don't spend seventy
Mhm.
thousand dollars buying it for the 50 weeks a year that you don't need that much space or that much inefficiency.
But some of the brands are even offering programs, like Lexus is doing one, that if you have a Lexus and you need something that has a little longer range or you want to do something gas, they have programs that work with their buyers. It's through their concierge system to work with their buyers to get in something for like a short period of time, kind of like a rent program. It's kind of fun. I mean, it makes sense.
But once you've said concierge, Tia, you've added $1,000 a month to your payment.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
think I
you can
think
say
that's
concierge. I
yeah,
can't.
and I think that's a subscription program,
Right,
it's
right.
which
through their it's through their yeah, they have one, but
yeah,
several of the brands do. So like if you have jumped to that, you there are things you would expect with that vehicle to do life with it that you shouldn't have to have the either or option. But I think it starts with being realistic with what you need to begin with.
and as a salesperson at a dealership, you really should be an advocate for the consumer, and you should be a consultant to the consumer from an education standpoint about the automobile. The customer will probably know just as much as you do about the features and benefits, but what the customer won't know more about is the types of financing. What do you have to do to
Mhm.
qualify? and the ins and outs of, say, leasing or a subscription program, and give the consumer choices based on the initial analysis of the needs of the buyer. And I don't know what the salespeople go into that detail when
I
they're
don't know.
sitting down talking to the customer. So it's
My
going to
most,
be. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, my most recent exposure to the purchase process was my son, and I've alluded to this earlier. He was buying a Nissan Kicks a couple months ago, and the Nissan dealer, for all intents and purposes, just gave him the online price of that car, which was a wholly adequate consideration discount relative to its window sticker. He just went and rolled with it. He was very happy with their pricing posture without any further discussion necessary. So going in, if you had simply consulted the dealer's online pricing and used that as your starting point, or in my son's case, finishing point for the deal, he was very happy with the deal. On a already affordable car, they made it more affordable. They took his trade-in at the same money that CarMax had suggested it was worth. So there was no, drama regarding the appraisal. They just took the number he had from CarMax and allowed that toward the new car purchase. Could not have been easier, and that was based
Love that.
on him knowing what the online pricing posture was.
When he bought it, did he start the process online, or did he start the process
No.
like at a dealership?
Started at the dealership. He knew that Nissan built a Kicks, but he was basing it on a few cars that he wanted to drive, and that was one of them. And upon driving the Kicks, found that it met his needs, which is key. He proceeded with the discussion and was very happy with the outcome.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear good experiences that people are, because we hear so much news about the negative experiences, but it's really nice to hear about the good ones too.
And my guess is, in most instances, there are good outcomes. That it isn't that complicated unless you want it to be. So his reference point, or the dealer's reference point, was what they sell them online. And obviously, you're not going to put a high price on the internet to lure people in. You're going to put a low price.
Well, what you see here is the Volkswagen Tahoe.
And speaking of luring people in,
that's a nice color. That's a nice color, Roosevelt.
Yeah, that's what do they call it? A bright moss green metallic.
I love
this. This is the look at those red.
Is that you, Roosevelt?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Those Kicks.
Yeah, this is the I guess it's the refined Volkswagen Tahoes for 2025. It's a subcompact, and I had the opportunity to go to the launch, but I also had the opportunity to get one out of the press fleet, which amazed me that it came so soon, and had it for a week.
A week. Mm-hmm.
And it comes with a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. This particular model that I had was $36,970. Gets 25 miles per gallon city, 33 highway. And
is that your drive, Roosevelt? Is that your driveway?
Yeah, that's after the heavy rains.
I mean, the fact that you can take a road course in your drive, that's awesome.
But this it was fun to drive, for one thing. The color really pops. I don't know if I would buy a green car, but there are a lot of people who did like the green car. I apologize for the jumping in the video, but I guess that's because of my connection here out of the house. This is a 2-row, had adequate space. And it's interesting. I was talking to a couple over Christmas holidays, and they're in the market for an automobile for the wife, and the husband is trying to get her into a 2-seater. She wants a 3-seater. And he wants her to get an EV, and she's not sold on EVs yet. So we went round and around, and one of the things was, they have kids. They have the soccer practices, the basketball practices, and all of that, storing of equipment, moving bodies around as well as the equipment around. And you'll find a lot of people with three-row vehicles buy those vehicles for the extra space. Not that they're going to carry 7 passengers around all the time. It's, well, I need that extra space. You get the extra space by dropping the third row. So why not just go with a 2-row? That's going to save you money and give you the space. Because you're not going to be, like I said, you're not going to be carrying 7 passengers around the majority of the time you have an automobile.
When you talk about extra money, Roosevelt, you mentioned the window sticker. This is a hard-loaded $37,000 house, right?
Yeah.
Do not spend $37,000 on a Volkswagen Taos. These are great cars at the base of 26 to maybe 30 grand, but at 37, high 30s, you've got a lot of options in the marketplace, including VW's own showroom. I would rather spend 35 grand on a middle level of equipment on a Tiguan than I would $37,000 on the smaller, less capable Taos.
Yeah. I mean, again, that goes back to needs analysis.
Right.
And the other thing is, the MSRP on this car is $36,970.
Mm-hmm.
You go into the dealership to negotiate, you're not going to spend $36,970, but you're going to start somewhere around there. But doing your needs analysis, something that you should probably do before you go to the dealer once you've been pre-approved, to see if the Tiguan is the next car you should look at, or whether the Taos is the one you really want.
Mm-hmm.
And you need, if you've gotten pre-approved, you know whether you can afford either one of them. Because just the pre-approval amount may rule out one or the other.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked its size. I liked the space inside. I like the fact they didn't play hide the anchors with the car seat latches in the back.
Right.
Still in that stage of life.
Yeah. Hey.
It is what it is. I also like that if you lay those seats down, you can actually fit hockey sticks back there. And I was like, okay.
And I can lay down.
See, yeah. And it could fit. My brother is about your height, but he's a little broader and could fit in the side of that one too, without, his knees bashing up against the dash. And I was like, okay, check mark. Might be a good teen car or like a small family car too.
Yeah. It's I would say it's a cut above a sedan when it comes to size and space.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, a lot of the sedans now give you a lot of trunk space. And if you can fold down the second row seats and get a full pass through and not just a little hole that they give you, a sedan would probably suffice for a small family. And save you some more money.
And that's the segue.
That's what I loved about K4. That's what I loved about it. You could easily use that for, like, if you had 2 littles and you still had, like, if it were 2 parents and 2 car seats, you could easily put that. There wouldn't be at the I'm touching each other stage. There would still be enough space to do that in that car.
When I was going to stay on the VW showroom and mention the Jetta, I drove a Jetta GLI a couple of weeks ago, enjoyed the heck out of it. But the base Jetta, which gives you all the comfort features that you need, an amazing amount of trunk, and a realistically generous rear seat, $25,000. Fun to drive.
For the Jetta?
For the Jetta. And again, you can get a Taos in the mid to high 20s and should. But if one likes, you really need to refresh your memory as to how nice good sedans are to drive.
Yes.
And the Jetta is a very good sedan for less money than you're looking at here.
Yeah.
That's what I've been telling parents now, like, because we get them in and on our site, is don't cross off the sedans just because
Mhm.
in your head you say car. Like,
Right.
get in them now. That Toyota Crown, I said, okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. Like,
Yeah, the
don't cross
Crown,
off. They still matter.
the Toyota Crown is a different style. It sits a little higher than a sedan, but it's not as tall as an SUV. It gives you, it's a little wider, and it
Yeah.
gives you a lot
Mhm.
more interior space. But from a price standpoint, I think it's going to be more than the styles.
I was trying to remember how much it is, but
Yeah.
I remember being really pleasantly surprised with that too. I was like, that's cool. I like
Isn't it
this.
low 40s to low 50s,
Yeah, I
Roosevelt?
think so.
Yeah. And now available in both a sedan and a wagon.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think
I like a
sedans are
wagon.
I think sedans are going to come back mainly because of the price point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, for
I
them
think
to
so.
come back, the domestic OEMs need to remember how to build them because they're all out of the sedan business.
It'll happen. It'll happen. We'll walk some of these things that we've said, like we're not doing that anymore. Walk it back and be like, we didn't mean that.
Yeah.
We didn't mean that.
I mean, you look at Mazda, and who else has Volkswagen has sedans.
Right. The Jetta.
Jetta, Kia,
And
Honda,
Toyota, Nissan.
Toyota, Nissan. We're
from an
forgetting somebody.
interior design standpoint, the sedans are getting better at using realistically the space inside.
Right.
You're getting the extra shoulder width that you were talking about, Tia.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing great designs with the dashboards, are giving people up front a lot more leg
space.
Leg space. They're not bulging the doors out. They're giving you extra trunk space, and you're getting a lot of interior storage space for cups and things like that. So I think, but mainly from a pricing standpoint, sedans are going to make a comeback.
You're
I just don't
mentioning
want them to be boring. That's
Yeah.
like, I like when it's got a little pep and fun to it,
Yeah.
I was going to suggest you're blurbing the EPA estimates on the Taos. Volkswagen very, very badly needs a hybrid drivetrain.
Yeah.
Because a 28 combined figure for a subcompact crossover, when the norm is probably more like 35 if you look at a CRV hybrid or RAV4 hybrid. That 25 to 28 is at best mediocre.
Hybrids are the gateway drug. I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
I'm going to preach that. It's my soapbox. Hybrids. We need them.
Hybrids or gateway drugs?
Highway. Hybrids.
Okay.
They're this bridge piece that we need now for like longer than I think we're going to say we need. But we do. We're driving to North Carolina next week, and it's a thing, right? Driving from here to there. Hybrid's a beautiful thing to enlist into the mix.
Well, as you all know, I'm not a big fan of especially plug-in hybrids. But anyway, we have a couple of visitors in our chat. Grouse Attack says hello, whoever. Hello, Grouse Attack. And Terry Avery is considering a Volkswagen GLI.
Okay.
Dave, you made an impression.
Well, the Jetta GLI, you're going to spend less than 35 grand. It could very easily be priced at 40 based on its content. I just think in my review of it at texasgarage.com, txgarage.com, in my review, I suggested the only negative was the manual trans, and I like manual transmissions. This thing was connected to the transmission via rope. And if you can find some stiffer rope, which you can do in the aftermarket for a few $100, it would be an absolutely delightful car to drive. As it is, I'd almost prefer the automatic in that application. But I'd get the manual and I'd budget $300 to $500 for a better linkage and go happily down the road. It is an amazing amount of sports sedan, German sports sedan, for under $40,000. So
Right.
go get it.
And, you know,
Go
there are a
get it,
couple,
Terry.
there are a couple other things that I think the consumer needs to kind of look at when they're purchasing a car, and that's getting in and out of an automobile. I mean, it's not easy to get in and out of some of these cars, you know, whether they're crossovers or SUVs or sedans. And a lot has to do with the roof line in the design. You know, I
Yeah.
find myself, I'm only 6'1", which is really not that tall, and I find myself bumping my head a lot of time getting in and out of these automobiles. And
I was driving the new Tacoma a couple weeks back, and it was the Trail Hunter Edition, which is lifted relative to a standard Tacoma. And the Trail Hunter, it was a great grouping of equipment, but the step-in height is high, yet the roof is relatively low relative to the step-in.
right.
And
Okay.
I'm all of 5'6" with a 29-inch inseam, so I was having to step up into the truck and at the same time duck because of the low roof.
Right.
So to my way of thinking, I drive a Miata as a recreational tool. I can duck in very easily, or I can step up pretty easily, but I'm hard pressed to do both. And the Tacoma was asking me to do both. You know, if it had been a Lexus brand rather than Toyota, there would have been someone available to help me get in to the
Yeah.
truck. But as it was, I was on my own,
You were doing it yourself.
doing it
And,
myself.
and one of the other things that you should take into consideration if you're looking at SUVs and they have these running boards, I guess you still call them running boards. Some of them are so narrow that when you step out of that thing, you can easily slip off and find yourself on the ground.
Right. Or
And
they're
I have had that to happen. I said it would have been better if they had not put this running board on this vehicle.
or they're intrusive to the point that you trip on them in lieu of just conveniently accessing the asphalt.
Right.
So they either get in your way, or as you suggest, they're too small to really help, but are perfectly sized to trip you up.
I have not had that experience yet. So where's some real wood? Oh wait, there's none in the car. Do not want that.
You know, if you were in your living room, Tia, as the rest of us are, you could find real wood.
Yeah.
There's tons of real wood in there, but you know what? Everybody is in the house right now. My house is
Okay.
loud.
Fair enough.
So-
Fair enough.
Well, in conclusion on the car buying process for 2025, if you're thinking about buying an automobile, the number one thing that I would say you should do first is to please get pre-approved.
Yes. Yes.
Pre-approval gives you more clout than you think when you're out to buy an automobile. And it brings you to the realization of what your pocketbook can really stand. So
Right.
do that. Get pre-approved.
And Roosevelt, if you're looking for an EV, do not buy an EV without comparing the lease to the purchase price.
Right.
Because most OEMs are making great deals on EVs and their leases right now, whereas the great deals on purchase may or may not be there. On the lease, they most definitely are there. And there's some amazing opportunities on EVs via a lease and a per month consideration.
You know, we started off talking about auto dealers and the FTC, the sales practices that some of these dealers are still continuing today in 2025. I found it amazing. Two dealer groups, two different parts of the country, still doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw I watched the video by TFL. I think they're out in Colorado.
Yeah.
And a dealer in their area was advertising free lease payments on a 500E
Okay.
electric car. They didn't believe it, so they went out to call the dealership, went out, did a quick little story on it. And the dealer was legitimately offering the 500E, the Fiat,
Mm-hmm.
for free lease. You had to qualify, obviously. It's 24 months. You
Mm-hmm.
had to put a down payment, pay taxes and tags. But your lease payment for 24 months was zero. Three of them ended up leasing cars
I bet
from
they
that
did.
dealership. Now, the thing is, the dealer was using that as a way for him to get more inventory, because the more cars he sold, he got access to better inventory from the manufacturer, and he was getting such great discounts on these 500Es that he could do that and make money off of it. So that's a legitimate program that the dealer used versus trying to do a bait and switch.
Interesting. Now I got to go watch the video.
But I found that very interesting. I forgot who did it.
So where are you making money then if you're not paying?
See, my thing is, I don't care where the dealer makes money. If I qualify and I want this lease for no monthly payment, I don't. You can't expect dealers not to make money. They're going to make money. So allow them to make some money, but not all of it on you, is what I always say. But I don't, he was using it. The dealer was using it because he could get access to better inventory, which was more valuable to him. And he was doing like 15, 20, 30 leases of these 500Es.
Wow.
Amazing. But anyway.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for watching the live presentation. I want to thank Terry and Grouse Attack, Terry Avery, for being in our chat. Thank Tia and Dave for taking the time out of their busy schedule. I want to welcome everybody to 2025. Hope you had a safe and happy new year. And this is our first show of 2025, which I thought was very interesting. We'll do more of these walk arounds like we used to do when we first started this thing years ago. But Dave tried to get us into politics. So for 2025 days, we're going to do more political stuff. There's going to be some interesting things going on in the auto industry in 2025.
Well, I was going to say, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Cybertruck blowing up in front of the Las Vegas Trump Tower.
Yeah.
Cybertruck, Trump Tower, Las Vegas. Really doesn't get any better than that.
Any better than that.
You just need some popcorn. You guys just need some popcorn so we can just sit and watch and be like, mm-hmm.
But anyway, as always, please buckle up, don't drink and drive. Buckle up, don't text and drive. See you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Tia.